Disclaimer. I began making this video all the way back in December of 2025, with some events dating back to even 2024. Some of the stuff mentioned might be outdated, changed, or differ from what I mention. I'll do my best along the way to make sure when it's the case, and update everything to be accurate. Furthermore, this video won't be recorded with my own voice, but features a paid voice, which can be found in the description if so desired, and will stand in as me, due to myself having some vocal issues. Due to the length of this video, I have decided to split it up into chapters, or rather so parts. This is so any viewer may return or leave the video as they wish, while also keeping it more organised. If you only wish to see me glazing ZZZ as opposed to tearing it apart, you can easily just watch what you enjoy. To be transparent, I also partially did this so whenever people ask why I was huddled up in my room, I could justify calling it a film project rather than a dumb internet video. ZZZ is obviously a game I'm very passionate about, and this video project is about exactly that passion. This means that I'm not focusing only on ZZZ as a game, but just as much on my relationship and my experience with it. If you only want discussion or opinion, you can use the chapter timestamps. Otherwise, I'm sorry to tell you that it's not what this video is about. So, to bring everyone into the know, I'm a competitive Zenless Zone 0 speedrunner, and probably the #1 Evelyn main. Ever since the release of ZZZ about 630 days ago, I have clocked in just below 2,000 hours. This means that next to having been a full-time student and working a part-time job, I've averaged just above 3 hours every day. I have hit top 1% in every competitive event across my entire account. I have held about 24 different world records in ZZZ speedrunning, and am currently, as of writing, still holding almost every single world record in the Hollow Zero category. Self-glazing aside, I am presenting this to confidently say that I see myself as having sufficient experience with Zenless and know what I'm talking about. But please, if there is anything you disagree with, you're free to leave a comment, and I will happily read all of them. Please keep the comments a civil place, and bring something interesting, because I know for a fact none of the parts I'll be discussing is because of a skill issue. Part 1. Why did I start playing? About 2 years ago, I signed up for an international educations program, which is realistically just an excuse for upper-class white girls to spend daddy's money on vacation, while telling themselves it's an enriching learning experience. This is, of course, exactly what I told my dad to get him to pay for it. Later, at the airport, when we were all meeting each other in this classroom we would be travelling in, I end up chatting with this short, cute Indian guy, and him and I end up becoming great friends. Along the months I'm spending with all these people, he starts telling me about this game he loves playing. He's a huge fan of Honkai Star Rail and Genshin Impact. He convinces me to install it when we come back home, and I do. It's a decent game. I have my fun, and slowly my YouTube page gets filled with everyone's favourite Hoyo slop content. Where, amongst everything, I see this other video.
Yo, she's 5'0". Jane. Oh my god. Oh Jesus, Jane.
Call me a pathetic girl failure. Goonette, I do not care. I was instantly intrigued. Zenless Zone 0. A bit of a mouthful, but not before long, I was in-game and started the main quest. Cool. Unlike Genshin, there's a skip button. Looks like if I ever get bored I can just jump forward in the story. But I'll give it a chance. No way it can be that good, right? Day 1 alone, I think I played about 16 hours. No stopping, barely any breaks. The story, the universe, the art direction, the characters, the fucking amazing combat. Their hooks were sunken into me. And I had already tied myself to my PC, with a cyberpunk matrix cable stuck directly into my brainstem. Sadly, I had installed it about 5 days before Jane's banner was doomed to end, meaning I had to act fast. I took the following 4 days off for a game I had installed yesterday. The coming days, I pushed every college project so I could max ZZZ time. But why set so much time aside for a banner? After all, I could just skip dialogue to max my rewards and be done with everything in a day. But I refused. Jane might be there, sure, but the universe and the story was what really stole my heart.
The monster? The theme song. What? The bad guy's theme always plays before the final battle.
They won't even have time to play their theme song!
Behind you.
My predictions were out-predicted!
You big dummy!
I didn't skip a single second of dialogue, the comics or anything else. Billy, Anvi and Nicole were just as much of a pull as the idea of rushing forward towards Jane's story. But after 3 days of pure bliss in game form, I had completed every single quest, event, commission, and managed to also get Jane and her signature weapon. To talk about Jane for a bit, because besides the obvious reasons for why one might like her, at the time, besides being the strongest character in the game, her quest really opened up for a character that was more. More than just a gorgeous, well-designed outside. She was a strong feminine character, in a dangerous and volatile environment where every single time she came out on top. Through pure strength, cunning, or combat prowess. Even better, of course, was her enormously enticing cinematic. Which, till the day I die, that woman is not straight.
Public security officer like you wouldn't dare peek, would you? Turning off all the cameras in the car, just to be safe. After all, only a select few in public security know my true identity.
Oh gosh, your tail touched me.
Oh, did it? I'm just turning off your body cam.
But overall, she was a character who had an attitude and traits I could reflect myself in, and others which I deeply admired. It was the definition of how you write a character who is strong in their femininity, can be looked up to, yet also desired at the same time. Which, clearly, she was desired quite a lot. I was honestly quite blown away by how much depth they had given to what could be seen as a goon-bait character. Although this also applied to so many other characters as well. Even the A-ranks had lore, quirks, and traits that made them truly admirable. Nicole, who again had a goon slob outside, yet has an adopted sister, grew up in an orphanage, and is constantly in financial jeopardy to keep donating to the local orphanage. All to help kids not to face the same issues she did. All of these beautiful, artistic, in-depth characters in this universe being topped off by good humour written with pure passion. Additionally, I have to mention Billy. Even though he's clearly a copy of Deadpool, I genuinely think he deserves his own spot next to him, as not just a copy, but an equally charming and charismatic maniac. It was, in essence, a reflection of the developer's ability to take traits from pop culture and make it their own in the best way possible. When the 4 days were up, I returned to my routine, still logging in every single day, following along with updates, quests, and events. This is what evolved into where I am now, having never missed or skipped on a single event, quest, or times commission. I have been there for all of it. Part 2. What even is a ZZZ? For those who don't play it, what are you doing here? ZZZ, or Zenless Zone Zero, is a third-person action RPG. A fast-paced, stylish hack-and-slash combat, often described as a character action game. Whatever that means. Developed by HoYoverse, it features a distinct urban fantasy or retro-futuristic aesthetic, and a character action game. Zenless takes place in the fictional city of New Eridu. Within this world, you are playing from the perspective of a persona consisting of Belle and Wise respectively. Belle and Wise work as proxies, which is a semi-fictional job, where they guide people through what's called the hollows. These hollows are so dangerous, amateur proxy work is strictly illegal, seeing as the government doesn't want civilians dying in what is basically an alternate dimension, or people getting what can best be described as space cancer, and then have them turn into what can best be described as quantum zombies. ZZZ's story happens not long after what is called the Fall of the Old Capital, which is the event where all these hollows emerged, leading to global and near total collapse of all humanoid civilization. This event is also why the game features such a retro-futuristic aesthetic, since humanity as a whole has taken quite a sideways shove in their evolution of technology. Similarly to Fallout, it means that a lot of important technological events probably never happened. What we know is that the hollows are unpredictable, but specially adept and skillful proxies can navigate in and out. Strangely enough, we also learn that the hollows are affected by sound, so it really is a shame that the capital fell before they invented a Beats pill or something. Belle and Wise are a lovely pair to follow, and a risk I'm so happy Hoyo took. For nearly every other game, the main character has always been a bland state for the viewer to self-insert. All so they can best immerse themselves and imagine that it's actually them who Kafka is dominating. Though, realistically, they'd probably cry and come the moment they even smelled her limited-time-only $130 perfume. By having it be two independent characters with personalities and their own minds, they risk losing out on that immersion factor. Yet they didn't. By them not being just blank slates, I honestly feel like it's so much easier to accept the premises and the in-universe situations. Because you are not just investing yourself into the story, but also investing yourself on the behalf of Belle. Yes, I chose Belle, sorry, Wise is boring. He is still a great character, but he is still more of that bland state compared to Belle. Also, I'm a girl, and Belle is amazing. Second assist, go stock the shelves! Belle and Wise are ultimately doing secretive proxy work for, street gangs? Biker gangs? Pop stars? Government officials? The police? The military? Fucking CIA? What is this? They work with literal wizards. So besides having the most expansive work history ever, they also run an adorable little video store, where they rent out videotapes and watch movies. This is also definitely not a money laundering unit for their proxy business. Luckily, just like the rest of us, they have the pleasure of being accompanied by a data center in their own home, running only the most premium of AI intellect. Just like in real life, this data center means they also have the privilege of having the highest electricity bill on the planet. Although this is where ZZZ firmly asserts itself in the sci-fi genre. Because their AI is actually useful, and not a complete waste of space, effort, energy, and time. Anyway, an important part of ZZZ to understand is society. Thyrans. Thyrans are a progressive mix between humans and animals, with some being near completely human, others being furries, and others being animals that just stand upright. I think it's a cool part of the world building, especially seeing as they haven't only gone for the classic fuzzy creatures one might think, like dogs, foxes, and cats. Instead featuring squids, snakes, goats, and even more. Constructs. There's a bunch of characters in-universe that aren't human or Thyran, but constructs. Machines that are alive and function with something called logic cores. They are a bit of a minority and are quite literally the stand-in for racial conflict, which is kinda crazy. Bangbu.
Número 1. Red Mocus.
Let's go.
Basically, in New Eridu, there are these critters called Bangbu, which serve as a mix between pet servants. They are round, squishy, and adorable, and OMG, I wish they were real. Their societal place is a bit strange and hard to explain, but basically think of them as a mix between having a child and a pet. They can do some work, you command them, but you also love them and care for them and want to embrace their individual aspirations. You have Bangboos that go on quests, Bangboos that are famous, Bangboos that are definitely not trans. At least don't say they are in front of our beloved Sai Ching-ping. Part 3. Combat and Competition. This segment will break the chronological system a bit, but remains important to cover, as to set the stage properly. Earlier, I mentioned that I've been playing this game competitively for quite a while, but what exactly does this entail? That's what I will cover here. In the ZZZ competitive scene, there are basically 3 overall categories to participate in. There's the hyper-competitive, no-holds-barred open category, the trial standard category, and then there's everything else. The no-holds-barred basically explains itself. It's using whatever characters, weapons and boosters you have at your disposal, or your credit cards, rather. Now, a select bit of content in ZZZ features trial characters, where it's only a certain set of characters you can play. Here, it's only skill, time, and mental illness. In this same-ish category, you have standard SA rank runs, where you are only allowed to use characters unlocked through quests and earned on the standard banner. Since they are typically weaker and less reliable, this category for the most part is pretty empty. However, for the ones out there doing those runs, I seriously applaud you for fighting in such a literally fair and honest category. Lastly, there's the umbrella category for everything else. This features a mix of speedruns for making a new account, completing quest segments, or doing PC mode. It's a bit strange, but very competitively fair. If you're starting today and have never played ZZZ before, if you want to start speedrunning, your options are pretty much only trial runs. I've mentioned it a bit already, but a lot of problems come when you try to force a competitive and equal system onto a gacha game. Objectively, the gacha formula breeds and forces gameplay inequality. We will put a pin in it and return to it a bit later on. But overall, what does the combat look like? ZZZ features quite a unique third-person combat system, where it's a mix between what has already been seen in Genshin, but tuned to feel more fast-paced and, unlike Genshin, has actual weight and impact. You have a team of 3 agents, mostly built around the template of main DPS plus support / sub DPS plus support. There are other systems you can use, but again, we will dive into this more later on. For now, that's all you need to know. Once you have 3 agents and your tiny Bangboo, you'll need to deck them out in the finest credit card debt-driven swag. This includes a W engine, or Wenjin, these being the substitute for the weapons your agent will be using. Lore-wise, this is no joke, a speaker tuned to a frequency that amplifies your agent's natural supernatural powers. Around this, you have drive discs, aka more gacha. And again in lore, these discs are what frequencies the Wenjin uses to boost it in different ways. Once you have your 3 agents and Bangboo ready, you now have a full team. You are now probably financially knee-deep and finally ready to engage in the different combat game modes. These range from Deadly Assault, Shiyu Defense, Hollow Zero, and Story Quests. There are many other types and game modes, but these are overall the most important. To talk quickly about these game modes without getting stuck for too long, they range from most to least competitive in the following order. So, from the most competitive, we have Deadly Assault, Shiyu Defense, Threshold Simulator, Battle Tower, Chronicle Combat, Hollow Zero, Area Patrol, Routine Cleanup, and Story Quests ending off as being the least competitive. One might disagree and say that Hollow Zero deserves a higher rating, as it's a bigger and more fleshed out game mode, with more prestige to be had. Which I agree, but the categories above feature in-game comparison and competitive rankings, whereas Hollow Zero only features prestige in niche speedruns outside the game. Additionally, the more competitive modes are literally what ZZZ themselves, and the community as well, Agree is what is used for interpreting performance. It is literally what is used to balance the power levels of characters. If you want it or not, your performance in Deadly Assault is not just compared to everyone else, but is also what represents the current state of the game to the developers themselves. One might now state the reasonable question of, how do I become one of the best? And the answer is pretty easy. You can't. But maybe you could. So, if you decided tomorrow you wanted to be the best of the best, what your first step would be is to install the game. And then you close your PC, clock into work, go to your boss, say, "Can I take everyone else's shift in the department with no overtime payment?" Now that you have a 100-hour work week, the real grind begins. If you get a paid living wage of about $20 an hour, working 100 hours every week, you earn $2,000, about $9,000 a month. 60% tax at around that income bracket, at least where I live, you now have $3,600. Average rent for your apartment in this housing crisis is about $2,000 a month, $1,600. Food, insurance, utilities, transportation, other necessities, about $800 maybe. You now have a great start of $800 in disposable income. You then go to your PC, swipe the credit card at every gacha pack, every battle pass, every booster, and fall short. For about $800 worth, you have what probably looks like a full team with great discs. But still, you do not even have a fragment of what the top spenders have. You have less than 1/15 of the person with the most pulls, which in a game where the strength of your characters is alpha omega, the person with the most money wins every single time. So what do? You clock again the next month. You take a mortgage, and after 2 months, you have about 1,200 pulls worth, which means you now have about half of a maxed out team. In exchange for your 1,350 hours of labor working for your corpo overlords, you are now halfway to mathematical success. Now it's just more work and thousands of hours of learning the game to truly become the best at your craft. Now, I hear you ask, but was this what you did then? Did you spend thousands of dollars for this game? And although I have swung some money about, it's nowhere near the $5,000-ish you'd need to spend to replicate my account. All this is because there's one thing more important than money in gacha games. And that currency is time. The quick explanation to why you have to spend so much money is because it's making up for the time I've spent. Time where I have gotten game freebies, participated in events and draws. The real thing you are trying to catch up for is the head start I have had, which, with their intense monetization, means it's really expensive. It's both super fair and super unfair. As I stated earlier, I should be rewarded for being more dedicated, right? But also it just means any new players are immediately discouraged to even try. There's no discovering the sport and being a natural, because the more time goes on, the more top-heavy the game gets. So, with all this time, you surely have a maxed-out team. Not even close. I have one completely maxed character, on a team that is only about 70% of the way to the best it could mathematically ever get. So, how come you are even up on the leaderboards at all? Because, luckily, a lot of those spending so much money don't even bother maxing their characters. These are people who are mostly addicted to just buying the characters. They don't upgrade their characters to set new records. They buy them because they can. In a sense, it's kinda akin to how it's not great drivers owning race cars. It's rich, old white dudes who don't even dare go above the speed limit. Just rev the engine to feel the sound and then they get back out of the car. And that's no shade to those people. They are the main people funding the game, which I'm happy for. But I can't help but feel their characters go a bit to waste. Another reason is simply the mix between min-maxing, doing maths and skill. Ever since I unlocked Evelyn more than 1 year ago, I have pretty much never let her down. Nearly every single day, I have grinded drive discs only for her or her team. All my pulls have gone to her or her team. I have only trained and played with her on field, really. This means even though my team might only be at the aforementioned 70%, I'm punching above that despite shortcomings, which luckily is something everyone can do if they put the time and effort into it. But to quickly answer the question, no. Despite my best effort and despite my records, the only reason I'm on the leaderboards is literally just because there's a bigger Leviathan out there who doesn't want to bother using their characters to set a new record, which is both humbling but also sad. Because to know that with all the time I put into keeping first place, it can just be neglected by a dude swiping his credit card. It's the system I bought into, so I can't complain too much. But I can't help but think, what if the system was different? Part 4. Evelyn. Where do I even start? Without knowing, because I've only scripted till this so far, this might be the longest section of the video, and undoubtedly also the most personal. If you're really not into the touchy-feely stuff with a mix of depression stuff, I'd advise you just to skip most of this part. With that out of the way, I have to talk about Evelyn. Evelyn was first teased at the Game Awards in 2024. By then I had a bit of time with the game, and was hyped to see what direction it was heading into. So when I was watching the stream, 90% asleep, and all of a sudden saw an announcement from my current fixation, I shot back up. What followed was a gorgeous cinematic trailer, featuring the reveal of Astra Yao and her girlfriend, her bodyguard, Evelyn. Their chemistry, their relationship, the story they opened up for was infectious. I already knew ZZZ had made something special. Having already saved up quite a few pulls, seeing as the Jane banner ended a while ago, I was more excited than ever to pull. I kept saving, and on the night of Astra's release, my world quite literally changed. Astra was released with the astronomical storyline, which I still firmly insist is the best questline ZZZ has made to date. It was fun, it was beautiful, and it really opened up for both her and Evelyn as characters. From playing that alone, I knew that Evelyn was going to be my main from now on till the end. At this point, I had just below 400 pulls in total, which in the gacha sphere is what most called a fuck ton. The only problem was, if I wanted to save for Evelyn, then I couldn't get Astra, but they go together. I cried a single tear, bit into my bottom lip, and passed on the banner, till finally Evelyn was here. Again, I know I might be biased, but Evelyn is still in my heart, has the best quest with Astra, and has by far the best animated teaser. Even her song is just chef's kisses. There was nothing, no part of Evelyn I didn't feel spoke directly to me. Anyone who knows me personally and knows ZZZ would quite easily piece these two dots together by now. Coming from a game company that is in many ways so conservative, it's surprising. But when I played Evelyn's quest, I couldn't possibly see it as anything else than an allegory for self-discovery of identity. A discovery of sexuality and gender identity. I know some might have just clicked off or rolled their eyes loudly, but bear with me. The quest's main focus for Evelyn is her dealing with the shadows of a previous life haunting her. Evelyn, before working with Astra, has worked as a spy, an assassin, a bounty hunter, and many other jobs we know nothing about. Specifically, a big part of the plot revolves around her name.
Bella. Let's go with that.
Different people know her by different names, some of these names quite literally being dead to who she is today.
Evelyn A. Chevalier, former producer of Redo Lucky Star, then assistant director at Parquet Factory Films for 3 years, joined our company 2 years ago on Monica's recommendation. Very impressive credentials. Too bad it's not the real you, is it? Shields Green.
It's not who she sees herself as anymore. Even in her song, The first lyric is literally, "I lost my name yesterday." Evelyn feels her identity isn't hers. All Evelyn has is the present, her relationship to Astra, and her job. Yet despite all this, the demons of her past haunt her. She hasn't found a way to cut them out. She hasn't found a way to truly let go of what previously defined her. She's too afraid of losing what little she has, what little she has fought so hard to get. Evelyn has never felt she had anything that belonged to her or defined who she was. Again, this can also be seen in the music video, where Evelyn's life only really brightens up after meeting Astra. Her apartment filling up with memories and trinkets connected to who she is. She begins taking care of herself and allows herself to thrive and grow emotionally. A process in which she becomes more and more attached and starts caring for Astra like never before. "Your voice erased my fear. Could you give me a hand? Take me away. You lifted the shadows and gave me light." These are all lyrics in the song, in which she sings to and with Astra. To see that their love is beyond platonic, you don't even need to read between the lines. You just need to read. There are multiple tells to this. If you just read her Mindscape 4, she quite literally describes the feeling of caring, really it's a crush, for Astra, with her heart beating harder when she's around Astra. In the song they use the lyric, "You're always in my heart." Her Mindscape 6 is literally a full poem about how she can never leave Astra, and how they are created for each other. The two have never been separated, nor can they be. She loves Astra beyond what friends or co-workers just do. In Astra's 4th Mindscape, she literally bar for bar says, "I seek your shadow through the score." She writes about the feeling of seeking Evelyn through her music. One might counter with, it could just be the shadow of any other person, or entirely figurative. Really? You tell me they just happen to use the word shadow, and it is not about the girl that literally, again, in her Mindscapes is described as the shadow to Astra's light. Really? The Mindscape itself is called Bond of Light and Shadow. It could not be more obvious, although it literally is. Even in universe, the popular opinion is people ship them together.
True. Maybe I am enchanted by some kind of magic. It makes me believe that even I may be worthy of protecting this star's radiance.
Anyway, Yuri and girl kissing aside, returning to the topic of self-discovery. If we take another look at the Mindscapes I love so much, there's a hint to this allegory of specifically gender identity. Evelyn's 3rd Mindscape is called Metamorphosis, and the text tells the following. At that moment, she frees herself from her restraints and becomes her truest self. The tightened ropes snap, and the chains turn into a broken cocoon. Evelyn stands at the boundary of rebirth, and in her cold, sharp gaze, there is the flicker of a faint, soft glow. To me, this is nothing else than Evelyn finally accepting herself, and feeling her emotions and her will igniting. She has a reason to fight, and a reason to win. She is reborn as her new self, finally free to be who she is inside. This all culminates in the quest, where in the climax, Evelyn is faced with a choice. Ultimately, her objective was to ruin the company and potentially kill Astra. But can she? Has she found something she values higher than her duty as a spy? Evelyn finally accepts herself, her feelings, and acts on the situation. She literally fights through the demons of her past, all in an effort to make it to Astra, who is symbolically trapped on the main stage. She knew Astra would never be safe when the demons of her past finally caught up to her. Now, finally at peace inside, she absolutely tears through the enemies, coming to terms with her past and accepting her rebirth, finally claiming the name as her own. Finally, she is Evelyn.
Kill Screen! You betrayed the organization and led us to a dead end! Kill her!
My name is Evelyn! I'll be the one who lights the flame.
She manages to rescue Astra, confessing her lies and her feelings in a truly heartwarming moment. Astra sees and accepts her for who she is. If it wasn't obvious, my tears were already running at this point. This was nothing short of absolute cinema. And I'm only so sad that they didn't just fucking kiss. Like, I get it. The marketing and the majority of the player base is sweaty losers. Trust me, I have been on the forums. But it's so fucking obvious. They love each other. Just seal the fucking deal.
You're not bothered? I've been deceiving you from the very start. My entire existence is a lie.
What lie? That you didn't tell me your real name? You are you. The person in front of me is the Eve I trust. No matter what your
Whatever the takeaway here is, the quest really moved me. And, quite honestly, ended up having quite a big impact on me as a person. At the time of this quest, I had just had to drop out of college because I couldn't mentally take it. I was facing a really dark period of my life, struggling with unemployment, an apartment I had to pay rent on, and especially struggling with coming to terms with my own identity. I had by now known I was trans for quite a while. I had even begun hormones, but the absolutely hardest part for me was coming to terms with it. At some point, you have to allow yourself to live your own life.
No orders, no schemes, only me. I won't let fear keep me captive any longer. Perhaps the me of the past wasn't worthy. But the person I am now doesn't need to run and hide.
I would eventually have to tell my family, tell friends, and allow myself to define who I am. Not just be a girl in the weekends, and act like something I wasn't when talking to people I cared about, who cared about me. Obviously, with the short analysis I just gave, that quest quite literally was what gave me the courage to accept myself, and what boosted my confidence enough to come out to my friends and family. Like Evelyn, I needed to let the old version of me die, because otherwise I could never grow, and let this new version of me be born. For those who want to know, I am doing better today. Pretty much everyone I care about knows I'm trans, and most have been there to help me and support me along the way. It's still a long journey, but I can't help but feel that ZZZ gave me the push I needed. Rolling back a bit to speaking about names, I have long considered what legal name I would want when I change. Funnily enough, a lot of the awakening characters I have had through my life have had the name Evelyn. It's a story for another time, but I'll flash some of them on screen real quick. But through all this, I decided every single pull should go to Evelyn. So I spent what at the time ended up being 700 pulls and got her M6 and R2 by the time the banner ended. As I pulled on Evelyn's banner, I also decided in the moment that Evelyn was my ultimate ride or die. If I was at the top of the leaderboards, but it wasn't Evelyn that carried me there, it wouldn't matter to me anyway. I would rather be number 2 as Evelyn the number one pretending to be something I'm not. Which is why all of my Hollow Zero and my Battle Tower, Chronicles, Deadly Assault, Shiyu defense scores and records are all set by Evelyn. I have allowed that the smaller levels can be completed by other agents, because I truly don't care about those stats. Also, since it's not really game modes I enjoy, as opposed to Hollow Zero where I actually like playing it. In a game where it's quite literally dominated by whoever just swipes their credit card the most, I can highly recommend this approach. You can never, unless you're a millionaire, be the best. But you can at least be the best at your character. Play it the best. Max it the hardest, or whatever. Make the game yours, instead of the other way around.
And fate sealed off the path ahead of me a long time ago. Until her radiant starlight pierced through the darkness.
In the speedrunning community, I have really been inspired by those who only do standard character runs, because I know they did exactly what I'm talking about. They dedicated themselves not to the meta or swiping, but to playing just for the love of the game. Part 5. Starting to Slip. First Anniversary and Issuan. Evelyn's introduction is what I personally mark as a turning point in ZZZ. A turning point headed in the wrong direction. Every month, ZZZ releases a wallpaper with a newly released character as a calendar. For some reason, I quickly noticed Evelyn didn't get one, which was a bit weird, but since there are more characters than months, someone had to fall between the gaps. Regardless, next up was Sanbi, and I was really excited. I had loved Ambi's character from the beginning of the game. I even spent an embarrassing amount of time soloing content with her because I didn't understand what a stun unit was. But to see her as an S rank was fantastic. Then she was released, and she missed a menu animation? Typically, characters get released with 4 menu animation, base stats, skill 1, equipment and skill 2. Even a lot of version 1A ranks had the 4 menu animations. Like, why wouldn't she have it? Miyabi had it, Evelyn had it, but not Sanbi? I figured maybe it was a fluke, or maybe they had decided to streamline content, or something. Because Sanbi is an upgrade of the regular Ambi, they don't even have to make character hangout quests. They have so many areas already covered by reusing assets like that, yet they can't even add that single animation. Her quest was good, but that missing bit of effort, although not alarming, still lingered in the back of my mind. Trigger gets released, also missing an animation. She gets her own trailers, but so does Miyabi? Miyabi got another cinematic around this time. Characters were missing content that had already been established to be baseline stuff, and Miyabi got another cinematic. Surely they can't just call it, "Oh, we were overworked and needed to skimp somewhere." Their priorities were wrong. Vivian and Hugo were both released just before turning to the first anniversary.
Vivian, your body! I'm sorry you had to see me like this, but I don't want to be the one that only brings misfortune anymore. No, please. No. It's so warm, and the night is beautiful.
Their quests were great, but I remember feeling like there was just a bit more dialogue, a bit too much. I shoved those thoughts aside, because the anniversary was just around the corner. Surely they had been saving for this, and now it would all be fixed. To be completely transparent, I don't like Ishuan as a character. I think she's boring. She's just a plain Mary Sue. She's powerful, and that's it. If there's any character in ZZZ I actually hate, besides Seth, it's Ishuan. I'll definitely be going in depth as to why. Don't you worry, my child. Unlike Zenless, I will not skimp anywhere. Luckily, she was released alongside Astra, so of course I swiped and spent on Astra for my Evelyn. But one thing I noticed about Ishuan was she had the 4th animation. Every other character till now had been lacking it, but Ishuan gets it? Whatever. ZZZ needs their new powerful Void Hunter, or whatever. It's fine. I played the quest, slightly grimaced every time Ishuan came on, but the rest of the Youngquay Summit characters were nice. Jufufu was adorable. Pan Yinhu is a cool side character, and the questline was decent. The anniversary was, although to me, truly only worthy of praise for the rewards they gave. The quest, Ishuan, and overall, compared to the hype and the content we had before, rang a bit hollow in comparison. Another thing of note was when Jufufu was released the patch after. Again, she was missing the 4th animation. Like, why? You just did it! The quest once again fixated on Youngquay Summit, which makes sense. It's where Jufufu is from. Still a bit too much of Ishuan, but fine. She had to establish herself, I guess. Until now, I had only begun to slightly brew up some actual worry for where ZZZ was going with all of this. However, that feeling was about to grow, as a brick was thrown through the window. Alice and Yuzuha are released, alongside a beautiful questline that worked well. It was engaging, still a little more dialogue than previously, but overall was amazing. It was a touching story, and as we rolled up on the climax, Yuzuha and Alice had to face off against a common boss, finally accepting each other's faults and flaws, and becoming true friends. And then, Ishuan shows up. Ishuan had been running her little side plot in parallel to the main story, which got me a little worried, but nothing could have prepared me for what was coming. Hoyo asked, what if that boss they had to fight together was actually Ishuan's boss? And so they did. They actually fucking made the boss these two friends had to fight together all about Ishuan. You ruined it, Ishuan! You ruined it! I hate you! Not only is the boss you have to fight all about Ishuan, whatever, but she literally shows up in the cinematic and steals the moment away from them. Two people who are both competent, one of which is a master at ethereal combat, and she has to show up. Fucking why? And real quick, to all those saying, oh, but Alice wouldn't be fast enough or strong enough to save her like that, it wouldn't be realistic. Really? It's a game where quantum wizards can use the power of love and music to save bunny girls from electro zombies. And you draw the line at a girl being able to catch someone falling from up high. Yeah, okay. By then, it had become pretty obvious to me what all this was about. ZZZ was slowly just going from what felt like a passion project, from writers and storytellers, to a marketing money printer. Yes, I get that they have to make money, but they already were. ZZZ was raking in millions on every single patch, far exceeding what is needed to keep a game evolving naturally. Their previous patch had just broken earnings records, yet regular characters were missing simple animations. And all this for the company's new darling character. This wasn't the first time they did this. Miyabi was pretty much the same story. Except what I could give Miyabi was that she was at least cool, unique, and had a good backstory. Ishuan is just a bland, white-haired woman with tits, who has something sister, all in the head dementia. That's it. And now she had to start stealing spotlight. Some hope was returned when Seed and Magus were released. They still missed the 4th animation, but by then I had given up on those small signs of effort. Their quests were good. Seed's was super touching, and Magus's part was good, with a few elements that were a bit too long. But, once more, another quest. Ishuan had to show up for nearly 30% of it. For this ending, Magus has to fight Isolde, and I was no exaggeration screaming at my screen, as Ishuan literally offered to take over the fight. Luckily, it didn't happen. Thank fuck. But once more, she had to be featured in a quest she could have 100% just been let out of. The coming patch lifted the veil for 2 new agents, Idari and Lucia. 2 new characters that were to add on to a previous faction. This showed some light for me, that they were willing to continue building onto the old and not just leave it completely behind. It's the same they did with Seed and Magus, but it being 2 in a row showed it wasn't just a fluke or a one-time thing. It was perhaps a direction they were moving in. Their story quests were, to me, amazing. They had clearly gone out of their way to wrap up some of those looser threads and take it somewhere. They had even taken the budget to make what appeared to be a higher amount of cinematics for the quest, which is very welcome. I remember being hyped, and my hype being met. I streamed the entire quest on Twitch, where I ended up giving it an 8 out of 10 rating, being very hopeful for where they would go next. The Chronicles Ether Battle game mode was kinda shit in my book, but I'm sure some liked it, so I won't knock it too hard. One worrying thing I did notice, though, was over on Deadly Assault. Idari was released with a game mode buff, but although I don't have saved anywhere, I remember vividly. It was something along the lines of gain ice damage when HP below 50%, and bonus crit when in Ether Veil, which happened to be very specific. At the time, Idari and Lucia were the only units with access to Ether Veil, and Idari, except for Manito, was the only unit built around actively lowering HP. Looking back, it was a stark warning sign for what was to come, but we will wrap around to that further on. I know it's a bit of a slog to be testifying to everything that happened, so I can document the exact decline, but after Idari left, we were graced with the release of Daelin and the tease for Banue. I say graced by Daelin because of the memes online.
I know where you live.
Oh, I also know where I live. We have a lot in common. Would you be interested in an unlimited call pack?
And her absolutely infectious personality.
Dear, please leave a 5-star review for today, and delete any prior complaints or negative comments. Otherwise...
Everything else, however, was quickly falling apart. Holy fuck, was the quest a massive slog. The premise was okay. The visuals weren't there, and the quest was overall just bloated. I had decided to run a bingo on stream for the second part, where I would note down all the classic bad tropes in ZZZ quests. It was meant as being half-hearted and semi-sarcastic. But oh my god, I had nearly filled the entire board by the time the quest was over. It was constant yap. The combat segments were seconds long at best. Dialogue was circular. By the way, this is completely excluding all the issues there were on launch day. I waited with the quest till the next patch was there. This was because ZZZ themselves said they had barely managed to voice half the cast, but it would be filled in later, giving them a whole extra month. When I played the quest, there were still essential moments that were missing voices. It's easy to give ZZZ the benefit of the doubt and say, oh well, it's because it's hard to manage, they're trying their best. And I'm sure all the people in the writer's room, in the design department, were worked to the bone. But I seriously doubt the higher-ups were even sweating. The missing effort just kept coming. Fourth animations aren't missing because they are too hard to make. They are missing because ZZZ knows they don't need to make them to make money. And I know I have been whining and bitching a lot over what is just an extra animation. But I will promise it will all make sense in a bit. Daelin and Banue's quest was a complete mess. It was a boring slog. I remember turning off the stream early because my head was actually hurting from how infuriating I found the quest. Every second playing, I was considering breaking my streak and just skip spamming the entire thing. ZZZ heard the community as well, saying they would try to return to their roots for future quests. Before I wrap up this part, I would like to mention one last thing. Banue. He was launched with the shortest banner yet. And even the banner just before the new strongest and most hyped unit yet. They completely assassinated him. It's so sad. but he was, in the truest sense, what you'd call an afterthought for the company. He featured a dope song with incredible visuals, but I'll pull it up again in just a second. Part 6. Yeshengwang. So then, it happened. The biggest, most elaborate expansion to ZZZ since the first anniversary, releasing the all-new Void Hunter, Yeshengwang. This is, without exaggeration, where ZZZ went from having issues in their game to being a walking issue with a game somewhere hidden inside it, if that makes sense. Her release wasn't just a monument to the pure greed that had infected the Hoyoverse studio, but a complete disaster to the entirety of the ZZZ competitive scene. With the release of Miyabi, it was clear ZZZ was going to give certain characters more attention because of lore and alike, which is fine. But then it went to Ishuan, where it turned from more attention to them into taking attention away from others. Ishuan had more attention to detail, more power, more quality of life. But characters around her were missing that. And then came Yeshengwang. Stronger, faster, more marketing. I don't want to sound too salty about it, but Yeshengwang is actually so hilariously much stronger than any other character that she should just be put in a tier of her own. I'll mention it again later, but what you need to know for now is just that the gap between Yeshengwang and second place is bigger than the gap between second place and 10th place. Maybe that's slightly exaggerating, but you get the point. Her quest was okay. It had some good moments, but again, it had way too much bloat. And funnily enough, the character that really had their moment was Ishuan. Again. This time, I was actually on the way to being quite excited. In the story, it basically turns out that Ishuan has, maybe unknowingly, been responsible for the kidnapping and potential killing of children.
Epstein was born in
I was really hoping this was either going to be a cool twist where Ishuan is actually evil, or maybe has a drastic shift. But nope. She feels remorseful and ashamed that this had happened. Children have died, suffered, and been tortured, while she was responsible. But the writers literally force Belle to forgive and uplift her. She was so neglectful, children got kidnapped. And Belle just goes, "It's okay, everyone makes mistakes." Yes, people make mistakes. But nobody just lets kids get kidnapped and fucking killed. They had the most amazing setup and fucking threw it on the floor. Because no, Ishuan has to be a good girl the main character can love. Then just make it a fucking dating sim. If I were an international war criminal, I'd wish I had whatever PR team Ishuan has. Through the quest and in the content around her, Yeshengwang is luckily a way more appealing character than both Ishuan and even Miyabi. Yeshengwang is adorable, has actual struggles and a past drenched in pure trauma, issues she can't just overcome. The element of her struggling with potentially losing her sight, hearing, and even her memories is unbelievably terrifying and an amazing plot device. The quest also finally wraps up Sarah. They did her a bit dirty, but I'm glad to see her again, and to see her as powerful as she deserves to be. Yeshengwang also actually has a personality, as opposed to Ishuan. Miyabi has her own personality, which isn't exactly prominent, and I'm not much of a fan of it. But I feel like Miyabi is purposefully empty. So the community could put themselves more into her shoes and pretend to be the Section 67 Virgil's Daughter ultimate rising revengeance hero. I myself ended up pulling Yeshengwang because I did actually enjoy her character. But unfortunately, we have to talk about combat performance. Yeshengwang is leagues ahead of the competition. It's not even close. Yeshengwang has higher multipliers, higher buffs, higher bonuses. There's nothing that she doesn't directly beat anyone else in. The following part will be quite a bit more technical and mathematically heavy. If it's not your thing or you already know what I'm talking about, then just do what you must. I will start with a quick comparison between M6 Evelyn and M2 Ye Shengguang. Both are on signatures. Ye Shengguang gains 50% of crit through various buffs, meaning she only needs 50% to have true crit. Evelyn needs 75%. Already here, Shengguang is 50% crit value ahead. Shengguang's Wenjing gives her 20% RES Ignore, 25% DMG multiplier, and 25% crit damage, with the main stat being 48% crit damage. Evelyn's signature gives her 24% crit rate, 25% RES Ignore on ults and chains, and 50% crit damage. Ye Shengguang trades about 25% crit value for 25% DMG multiplier, which might not seem like a lot till you remember that DMG multiplier is amazing, especially considering she's giving it to herself. She needs no other units to gain a multiplier that's usually only reserved for supports. And again, 48% crit on the main stat, because she doesn't need crit rate. She gets 50% crit rate already, which is why her Wenjin double dips crit damage. From passive bonuses and core passive, Shengguang gains 30% crit rate, 25% DMG multiplier, and her Ether Veil boosts damage by 110%. Evelyn's core passive gives 25% crit rate. That's it. Even if you decide to ignore the Ether Veil bonus because it's tied to an ability, Shengguang just flat out gets more crit than Evelyn, and extra to add on top. If Shengguang only got crit, it would still be a bigger boost. Then let's look at Mindscapes. M1 for Evelyn gives 1,500 decibels, 12% defense ignore. That's basically the gist. Front-load damage and 12% defense ignore. Shengguang gets 10% damage bonus, 20% defense ignore, and 6 sword force, which I'd say is roughly equal to the effect of an extra 1,500 decibels for Evelyn. She gains nearly twice the defense ignore and still gets extra damage multiplier. For M2, Evelyn gains increased interruption and 50% ATK, which is decent and nice. She even gains a tiny half extra chain attack every 25 seconds. Shengguang gets 50% bonus to her swordbearer buff and 40% defense ignore on her strongest attacks. Between Mindscapes, passives, multipliers, moveset choice, it comes to nobody's surprise that she's the strongest. If you have her ideal team, I don't think it's exaggerating to say at M2, she outperforms M6 Evelyn in nearly every situation. It is so unbelievably clear if you just look at the numbers how much stronger she is. She even features a special drive disc set tailored to her, which really just is the whipped cream on top of this overpowered mess. The deadly assault rotation after Shengguang was released. I hit my all-time record of 150k-ish points, which had previously placed me as top 0.4%. This time, it placed me in the top 2.2%. I did as good as ever, yet with Shengguang, there were 5 times the number of people above me. The speedrun leaderboards were also hit hard. Most people played Miyabi before, sure, but now it was just Shengguang. It wasn't who's the better player in any capacity anymore, because skill didn't matter next to Shengguang. Shengguang even fucking runs faster. They power-crept sprinting. Not only does she put every other DPS to shame, you are actively losing time on running if you don't use her. Miyabi had her dash, but even that is outclassed by Shengguang and her scooter sword. It has really hit the peak of who has Shengguang, because if you don't, you just lose. That's it. It didn't help that Deadly Assault as a game mode also just completely turned to being ultra shill. On her launch, 2/3 buffs were specifically tailored to her, and 2 bosses for her to score on. For the coming months, the rest of the roster didn't even matter. It was Ether Veil and attack buffs only tailored to her. The only buffs that she couldn't use were of course either them built for Miyabi or Ishuan. But no other characters could even play the game. Honkai has, over the months, been infected by more and more HP inflation. Seeing the community complain and try to fight against it, just to see the same power creep and HP inflation flow into your favourite game, is nothing short of tragic. I haven't even mentioned it yet, but come on! We all know the miasma shield is just a cover. It's just an HP increase hidden behind semantics. If we give the enemy a shield they have to beat, then it's not the same as increasing their HP. It's honestly both pathetic and so unbelievably sad. I put a pin in Banyue's music video earlier, and I think it's appropriate to bring that back up. I feel like many will argue, well, if they didn't want to put effort into other characters, they would just save on the cinematics. Which is an argument till you remember the cinematics outside of the game aren't effort for the character. They are advertisements. It's videos meant to spread and pre-sell the character so people log in and swipe on the character. It's the same reason you can go to the movie theatre, watch an awesome trailer, and then leave with a 4 out of 10 experience. Most of the money in a lot of products aren't won by having a good product, but by people not having better options, or not knowing the better options. That's why advertising alone makes up 20% of the US economy. They win directly by making the advertising cinematics. More people know the character, get hyped, and then pull. All this without even touching the bland, recycled, and uninspired parts of a character. It's meant to motivate impulse shopping, and to feed into the addiction the whales already have. To avoid going full-on marketing nerd, in a scene with gambling and sexually suggestive material, impulsive shoppers are your bread and butter. Even in the trial, you get to use the character. It's only set up to show the strengths and only let you use them briefly, before you really get to know the character. It's just pure profit maximization. In the same way, they only really make female S ranks because they sell better to the gooners. And then they shaft Banyue. Banyue needed to fall into and fill the hole, so Ye Shengwang could walk across it. I wish it was different, but sadly nothing is going to change if the community doesn't do something about it, doesn't complain enough, and isn't loud enough. I have been on the Hoyo forums, and I know for a fact the Hoyo community knows how to complain. So do it about the things that matter. Say we want better. And don't just slurp up Ishuan because they want you to. If you want a telling show of effort between the normal characters and the 3 shills, Ye Shengwang and Ishuan both feature more dedicated songs than the fucking actual pop star in ZZZ. Shengwang has the most songs dedicated to her, with 7 total. Ishuan on 5 and Astra on 4. And then there's Miyabi with 1 song and 3,000 cinematics. And 200 event and quest appearances. Part 7. Where we are now. As of writing, Nangong Yu's banner landed yesterday. I have played the entire new quest and Chronicles, and I'm happy to say that in these weeks, they've headed in a bit of a better direction. They have massively reduced the niche shield buffs in Deadly Assault. It's still rigged, but it's nowhere near as bad as it was. The new characters came with skins, which, although being effort, also kinda just monetization. I'm happy to see it though. The quest was actually surprisingly good, and featuring a good usage of older characters. They did actually listen to the problems the community had, which I'm super happy to see. It genuinely lifts my spirits to see that they can actually still make banger content. I'll go in depth a bit more in just a second, but although they can't un-Shengwang the game, they are at least working to make the story more cohesive and give it some more heart. Arya even featured an extra animation-ish, with it switching into the second form. It's clear they took some extra care with the angels, and I'm so happy to see that. So, update. It's currently 1 AM, the 4th of June as of writing. Deadly Assault is damn near back in the shitter, and Shiyu defense is now even worse than it was before. Half the buffs are abysmally niche and dogshit. So retract everything I said about those 2 game modes. As for the quests, I have chosen not to play them until I finish this video, so in my mind, this part is still the newest. Returning to the new quest, I made an effort for the video to write my thoughts down on every aspect along the way to make sure I'm giving it a 100% fair shake. We start the quest off at Subian Temple, which is at this point quite overused, but whatever. We don't stay there for too long. We move on to travel to 404, where we are blessed with a cute and charming cinematic. It's short, but I'm happy we get it nonetheless.
No can do. It's almost Gilded Carrot Day. As they say, practice makes perfect.
We then have the biggest moment of illusion of choice. Come on, ZZZ. Either make it a choice or make it forced dialogue. You're not fooling me in any capacity. Suna's dialogue does seem to have a rare case where you can influence the dialogue maybe just a bit. We then have a humorous, manipulative, yet cute moment.
Aria, you think my face is too round, so you won't take me out for dessert.
No, you're the one who said that!
Poor Suna. Abandoned by Aria.
Nangong! Now is not the time to make things worse!
So are you taking me to Phylum Heights or not?
Before we go outside and... Oh my god, we are so fucking back. It's fucking Evelyn. How fucking wide is that car anyway? It's like 3.5 meters wide. That's fucking wider than a bus. What is going... Anyway, we get dragged inside by the hot lesbian to talk to the sweet lesbian. Oh my god, I am so happy to see them again. Especially together, as opposed to it only being Astra. Astra has a moment of the sillies, as she doesn't seem to realise we fucking live on 6th Street. But that's neither here nor there. We then go to the store again, where we meet the first snake to have both a tail and legs. Guys, do we not understand furry genetics here? Ishuan appears, and my heart fucking sinks. Luckily, she disappears, and I don't have to deal with my deeply suppressed anger. Suna and Aria have an... interaction? Suna is weak to the idea of robo-puppy eyes.
Oh, Aria, you're so stingy. I haven't seen a cute, round look of yours in ages. I want to be the big sister, too.
Once we find the signal source, how about I turn off the projection and go to Yomcha scene with you, Suna?
All right.
Belle says another meme sentence. Thank you, ZZZ, for this. We then meet the snake lady again, who has a moment of self-aware lollybait.
2 kids?
I'm so happy it's acknowledged. At least I know the team making these characters are aware of the potential optics, and purposefully avoid weird stuff with them because of how they look. Aria says we are suddenly less poor, and I... explode. What the fuck?
Look at that! We're suddenly less poor!
Aria does a combat and, oh my, do I love those green little bubble hype squads. They are so precious. Aria asked ChatGPT for guidance and now can't attend her best friends and her own concert because chatbots are never wrong. We go to invite some lady called Vespa. No clue who she is, but holy... what is that hip-to-waist ratio? Literal clanking aside, we go to Reverb Arena to do some good old marketing. And they really dragged Bernice and Caesar out for this. I am so over the fucking moon right now. This is so well deserved, and the right thing to do. Bernice throws some exposition at us. The angels make a suicide pact.
If I mess this up really bad, we Angels of Delusion are all going down together.
And then the greatest line ever happens. Bernice literally says the Pride slogan. What the hell?
Be brave, girl. Sing it out loud and proud.
Be brave, girl. Sing it out loud and proud. Surely they know, right? Anyway, absolute cinema aside, we then have it followed up by more cinema. as a cute cinematic comes on. Again, just giving some of the limelight to older characters, and I love it so much. Belle tries to cope with why she would be associated to actual gangsters. ZZZ then has a self-aware, not self-aware moment of them saying supernatural stuff is too wild to believe.
That kind of bullet time only happens in cartoons.
We return to the store, meet something yokai who is literally just a bot trying to rage bait a fairy. Arya then runs off due to clankerism and mean people. Valid girl, you go. Yokai takes over ChatGPT and quite literally tells Arya to kill herself. Fucking crazy.
You might as well fall into eternal slumber.
Jane shows up and blatantly shows she hasn't watched My Little Pony. Come on, Jane. Friendship and magic wins everything. We know this. Which, again, so happy to see Jane. We get some judicial police lore about the rules and laws in New Eridu. Kinda cool, I guess. We then have a little half-cinematic-ish, which features a cuttlefish plush in the background. I literally noted down while playing that I wanted it so bad. A cuddlefish, if you will. Nangong says Baka. I know I'm only playing the English version, but I know they made her say it in Japanese. I just can't prove it. We then get the reveal that everyone's least favourite incompetent police officer is of course dwarfed and mocked by his way cooler and hotter older brother. It was kind of cool to open up about a tiny little A-ranks family like this. Like loops closing in is super nice. Y shows he knows nothing about governments and secret agencies. Fairy literally warns them, saying they shouldn't have those thoughts, because it will end badly. Robo-racism is confirmed.
Nothing for you. But with the way things are going lately, maybe some people really will start buying into the intelligent constructs are a threat narrative again.
The plot gets set up for Vesper, and is honestly done quite well. She gets hacked because her mind is open to corruption, which also gives a good and humane parallel to how people in real life are radicalized. Even then, the conflict of Vesper feeling she isn't her own person is represented so well in the barcode on her arm. A+ on her design.
You've never felt it, have you? What it's like to live as property.
Arya then mentions the Geneva Convention, saying they can't treat her like that. Clearly, she doesn't know what the CIA is either. We then are thrown into a segment explaining what is literally a parallel to racial supremacy theory, and how it's wrong. Even though they are safe shots to take, I'm happy ZZZ is hitting them perfectly. Billy Boy and the Cunning Hares make an appearance, which is just so amazing, and so nice. I'm so satisfied with the callbacks and the loop-arounds. Bernice openly says she is with Pulchra. It's true. I said so. There's a weird fan that I know is a callback. If it wasn't, it would be a bit too weird. Asking a very young girl to step on you. Astra and Evelyn meet up with us, and we are invited to fun and infinite concerts from her. They maybe say the siblings might be furries, which is kind of funny. We get the fucking cuttlefish plush! Let's fucking go! Yes! They then immediately call it the wrong species. It's not an octopus, it's clearly a cuttlefish. We then get 2 new characters teased as we wrap up the plot. Very well done. This part and onwards were scripted way more recently than the summary and everything else. I wanted to have a segment that was properly up to date and included my recent thoughts. Billy was released a few days ago, again with only 3 animations, which literally puts him worse off than his A-rank variant. Promia was released. She looks great, but her design is a bit lacking. Coming from someone that has drawn semi-professionally for years and drawn lots of NSFW content, I will still firmly say she has too little clothing. It comes off as unnatural. It lacks in shape, detail, and philosophy. There's nothing interesting about her outfit aside from her jacket, because from thighs up, she's practically naked. S-Billy is to me something I'm glad to see, but I'm not very interested in. His outfit is okay, but the A-rank streamlined version is way more my type. They are, of course, both having their moment of being shilled in Shiyu and Deadly Assault. Like, I'm glad there's a buff for the one Ice Anomaly unit. No, you don't count. But those are my current and relevant thoughts for how things are as of now. Part 8. Where we are headed. ZZZ has lately shown that they are growing lazy and uninspired in their character designs, and I'm afraid this will continue. Nangong is just a pastel version of Yuzuha. They literally both have the traits of being extremely lucky, teasing their friends, and being smug all around. Premier is just blueberry-flavoured Evelyn. S. Billy is literally just a re-release of Billy. Suna is a reskin of Alice's crybaby personality, which is also why she's constantly budding with Nangong, just like Yuzuha and Alice. I know they were already taking monuments of inspiration from their other games, but I feel like that's way more earned than reusing characters in the same game. Characters like Premier seem more like a what-if universe version of Evelyn than her own thing. Besides that, she is literally just a copy of Chlorind from Genshin. The anniversary is coming up in a few days, and it's where the ultimate test will stand for Zenless. Their last anniversary was a complete turning point, where ZZZ decided to go in the wrong direction. We will be getting a new region and most likely a new shill character as well. If this character somehow proves to be stronger than Shunguang, it's safe to say all semblance of game balance has been abandoned. I'm hoping, however, that they will take this opportunity to completely reconstruct Deadly Assault, Shiyu, and their endgame content as a whole. I'm worried that this will be the final year I'm following along and avidly enjoying Zenless, because, as I've said, the very first year was easily the best in terms of content. If it keeps going downwards, then it doesn't matter how decent the game is, because I'll just keep remembering when it was amazing, and how good it could have been. I want to keep playing Zenless, and enjoying it for what it is, which is also why I'm quitting speedrunning, more or less. The competitive scene isn't fun anymore, and it shows. The activity on the speedrun leaderboards have been near stale, because of the current meta. To grind and sweat for a boring, stale game is something nobody wants, especially when it's related to the stress of keeping the #1 spot. I am really hoping they will turn it around, and that people can find their voice to help Hoyo improve their game in a constructive manner. Zenless, please prove me wrong.